Coming up on Nightcast, the world watches the latest efforts for Arab-Israeli peace and a weekend full of happy homecomings.
And cold weather will be with us as we start the new week.
In sports, the NIT is coming to Albany. Details coming up.
We'll see you in about 12 minutes after the movie.
TV 10 is right at home with you.
This is 10 Eyewitness News Nightcast with Lori Stevens. Weather Plus with Greg Playford. Dan Murphy with sports. And the 10 Eyewitness News team.
Good evening. Secretary of State James Baker takes his Mideast peace mission to Israel tomorrow. Baker met with the foreign ministers of 8 Arab countries today. His hope? To fashion a regional security structure that will solidify the gains of the Persian Gulf War. The Secretary of State's travels took him from Riyadh to Cairo today. In Saudi Arabia, Baker used this meeting of America's Arab coalition partners to lock in new security arrangements in the Persian Gulf and to try to shake up the Arab-Israeli peace process.
We support this initiative. We especially think it is a very positive step that so soon after the end of military action.
For the first time, Baker won Arab endorsement of an enhanced U.S. military presence in the Persian Gulf, even after current tensions with Iraq have passed.
We had an opportunity here to discuss in some detail the 4 broad areas that we think are important in the aftermath of this crisis and of this war. That is, questions involving regional security arrangements, questions of arms control and proliferation, questions of economic cooperation, and of course, questions involving the Arab-Israeli conflict.
At the same time, Baker is working to set up a meeting with Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza when he visits Israel beginning tomorrow. Baker's reception there may not be as inviting as he would like. A Palestinian who stabbed 4 Israeli women to death in Jerusalem today told police, "This is a message to Baker." Some Israelis at the murder scene expressed anti-American sentiment as well, shouting, "Baker, go home." And Baker may get a similar reaction from the Shamir government, which is likely to resist any compromise that goes beyond Israel's 2-year-old peace plan, calling for limited Palestinian self-rule. Some Palestinians say they're insulted that U.S. officials have made no formal invitation to meet with them. Most American Jews share in the concern over U.S. efforts to make Mideast peace. Today, Congregation Beth Abraham, the Capital Region's center of Orthodox Judaism, celebrated the formal dedication of a new worship hall. Yet there is fear here that Israel will suffer as the U.S. pushes for a solution to the Palestinian issue. At a time when moderate Arab countries are distancing themselves from the PLO, Congressman Michael McNulty is uneasy.
Embracing Saddam during this conflict, for cheering the Scud missile attacks on innocent civilian populations in Tel Aviv. I think this is exactly the wrong direction for the United States to be going in.
Very concerned about whether or not the president understands what he's about to do and what he's sending his messenger to do. Meeting with the PLO means feeding right into the hands of what he ultimately determined was inappropriate. The PLO set all of its cards and all of its marbles at Saddam Hussein's camp.
Many Jews also feel that meeting with the PLO is a bad sign. In Lebanon, a large anti-Saddam Hussein conference is set to get underway tomorrow. 250 delegates from 30 Iraqi opposition groups have gathered in Beirut. They want the Iraqi leader tried for treason and war crimes.
That the Iraqi people have had enough from dictatorship, oppression, persecutions of the minorities in Iraq. We have had enough of fascism in Iraq. We have had enough of Saddam Hussein.
But Saddam Hussein is not giving up easily. A Shiite leader in Beirut claims Saddam's army fired poison gas shells against rebels in southern Iraq yesterday. That as anti-Saddam sentiment grows in cities throughout Iraq itself. U.S. military authorities in Saudi Arabia and Washington aren't commenting on a Newsweek report that 11 Green Berets disappeared during the Gulf War. Newsweek says the 11 vanished during secret missions in Iraq, but the Pentagon has not formally listed them as missing in action. Back in this country, a weekend of celebrations as America welcomes home the men and women of Operation Desert Storm. A very emotional scene at Andrews Air Force Base near Washington today as 21 former prisoners of war came home. Marjorie Eilertson reports.
Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey D. Fox, United States Air Force.
21 former POWs come home to a star-spangled welcome. First by Defense Secretary Dick Cheney and General Colin Powell, then loved ones.
Every American, every man and woman who cares for freedom owes you a very special measure of gratitude. Americans in every part of this land have been so proud of your heroism, your professionalism, and your skill. Your courage was brought home to us in every victory you won, in the bravery and determination you showed while enduring captivity.
Among the former POWs held by Iraq, 2 women, and the group's spokesman, Colonel David Eberly.
We're glad to be home. God saved us. Our family's love and your prayers sustained us. And for many of us, the camaraderie of our flying squadrons brought us home to fly again.
Like their days in captivity, these Americans are likely to remember this homecoming forever. Marjorie Allerson, 10 Eyewitness News.
The former POWs will undergo medical checks and debriefings at Washington area military hospitals before going home. The returning troops were honored with parades and fanfare all over the nation this weekend, including here at home. In Bethlehem this afternoon, the Village Fife and Drum Corps led the way. A patchwork quilt in honor of the troops was on display. Many of the squares were made by 5th grade students at Ellesmere Elementary School. And coming up on Nightcast, thousands in the Soviet Union take to the streets against Mikhail Gorbachev. And back home, others were set to take a new set of wheels to the streets, and they got a good look this weekend. Mikhail Gorbachev marks the 6th anniversary of his rise to power tomorrow, but a huge group in the Soviet Union is not celebrating. In Moscow today, what some are calling the biggest anti-government demonstration since the communists took power 73 years ago. A crowd estimated at 500,000 rallied at the Kremlin, demanding Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev and his fellow communists resign. There were similar rallies in more than a dozen Soviet cities. The protests come just 1 week before a nationwide vote to redefine the balance of power in the Soviet Union. And anti-government protests have also plagued Yugoslavia this weekend. There was a new wave of violence Monday morning as police fired tear gas and beat protesting students. The anti-government protesters were demanding the release of opposition figures jailed in earlier clashes like this one. In our news checks tonight, state police say a 33-year-old Hoosick Falls man was killed in a one-car crash this morning. Kevin Moose of RD1 died after he lost control of his car in Pittstown and struck a tree. And a warning tonight if you park your car in Albany. Police say several cars in the Lexington Avenue 2nd Street area have been hit by BBs or pellets over the weekend. Police are still investigating. The Capital Region lost a friend this weekend. Russell Oswald died after a long illness. He was the head of New York State's prison system during the bloody 1971 Attica uprising, and he held similar positions in Wisconsin and Massachusetts. He is survived by a wife and son. A funeral service will be held Wednesday in Schenectady. Russell Oswald dead at the age of 82. A survey says the average cost of a gallon of gasoline has dropped below its level before the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. The nationwide Lundberg survey says the average price for all grades of gas is just below $1.16 a gallon. But the good news might not last. Analyst Trilby Lundberg says prices could move back up as winter ends and more drivers take to the road. Some folks were looking to gas up a new car this weekend, and they had more than 170 cars to choose from at the annual car show at the Empire State Plaza this weekend. Since the door closed on Saddam Hussein in the Persian Gulf, Americans have been busy putting their minds back on domestic affairs. Number one on that list, the economy. The Capital District Automobile Dealers Association's annual car show has hosted thousands of the curious, many who have been, until the last few days, holding back on buying durable goods like cars. But business is picking up.
February was a very good month, much better than last year. We had a large increase in business in February, so that was a good sign. March in the auto show usually launches the spring market, so we're anticipating that with high hopes.
If the hopes hold out, more people will get out of their old car and into a new one.
Sunroof, it has to come from
People like Bill Gagnon and Daniel Major have been cautious because of fear over the Gulf.
Wasn't sure what was going to go on there for a while, you know, so. But now things are looking pretty good, so.
So if you find the right deal?
Yeah, I definitely would buy one.
We're pretty much worried about the economy. We thought it was going down to begin with, and a lot of people, I think, were just saving for the most part. Now I think people are more likely to buy just because the economy may be going up.
And in America, that means selling cars. How the capital region fares compared to the nation won't be clear until the end of the quarter. Until then, dealers are hoping for a boom. The show hosted 35 manufacturers, the most ever in the Capital District. Both big shows in downtown Albany attracted great crowds this weekend. The Capital District Garden and Flower Show today drew more people than it did in all 3 days last year when it was at the new Scotland Avenue Armory. They piled into Albany's Knickerbocker Arena to see plush gardens, spectacular landscape settings, and fragrant blossoms. It seems a thirst for spring helped such a large number.
I think people are tired of winter. They want spring. They want to get out and start digging in their gardens. There is the most wonderful collection of landscaping expertise here that they can find.
Proceeds from this show will go to benefit Wildwood programs. The organization serves more than 500 neurologically impaired, learning disabled children and adults and their families in the Capital District. Well, will there be rain or shine to start the work week? Meteorologist Greg Playford has that answer in his forecast coming up, so stay right here.